Little Red Riding Hood by Nadia Fabres. Once upon a time, in a distant land, there was a sweet and lovely little girl who lived with her mother at a white cottage near the wood. She always wore a beautiful red cap that her mother had sewn for her. For this reason, everyone throughout the land called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother asked the Little Red Riding Hood to visit her grandmother, who was ill and lived alone beyond the woods. The mother prepared a basket of bread and a bottle of fresh milk, and warned the little girl not to stop and talk to anyone along the paths in the wood. The Little Red Riding Hood loved her grandmother very much and was happy to visit her. She set out her journey with the basket in her hand, singing and skipping cheerfully into the wood. By and by, the woods became thicker, and the sunlight would barely shine between the branches of the trees. Suddenly, the Little Red Riding Hood saw a pair of large, slitting eyes that staring at her from behind a shrub. The eyes belonged to a clever black wolf, who out of curiosity had been following the Red Riding Hood for a while. The wolf greeted the girl with a gruff voice and asked, "Little girl, where are you going along the woods?" At the moment, Little Red Riding Hood forgot her mother's warning and politely replied, "I'm going to visit my grandmother, who lives alone beyond the woods and is sick in bed." The wolf thought the little girl would make tasty treat, and he also thought he could eat the grandmother too. So the clever wolf proposed a race to the cottage to make the journey more fun. "Let's see which one of us arrived at the grandmother's house first." The wolf, who knew the woods well, began to run at full speed on the shortest path, while Little Red Riding Hood walked cheerfully along, stopping and collecting flowers. When the bad wolf arrived at Grandma's cottage, he knocked the door gently at the door, imitating Red Riding Hood's voice. When the grandmother opened the door, the wolf slipped inside and ate grandmother in one bite. Then he dressed her nightgown, bonnet, and spectacles, and taking the book, he got into the bed waiting for Red Riding Hood. When Red Riding Hood arrived, she wondered why the door was already open. When she ran to embrace her grandmother, she exclaimed with amazement, "Oh, grandmother, what a big ears you have!" The wolf, disguised as the grandmother, replied, "All the better to hear you." The little girl drew inside. The little girl drew near and said, "Oh, grandmother, what a big eyes you have!" The wolf replied, "All the better to see you." Finally, the little girl said, "Oh, grandmother, what a what a large mouth you have." The wolf exclaimed, "All the better to eat you." And slipping from the bed, he swallowed up the poor little Red Riding Hood. The wolf, finally full, returned to the bed and began to snoring loudly. Unexpectedly, the hunter, a friend of the grandmother, was passing by and heard the scuffle. He became suspicious and thought, "Such noise! I must make sure my friend is safe and sound." He then entered the bedroom and saw the wolf fast asleep. He pointed his rifle at the wolf, but he knew that if the terrible beast had eaten the grandmother, there was still hope to save her. He opened the wolf's belly and great astonishment saw the grandmother and her granddaughter leaped out. The little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, freely from the danger, hugged the hunter and celebrated, eating the bread and the milk from the basket. The little Red Riding Hood had learned her lesson. She would never disobey her mother again. End of the story.